With Final Fantasy VII Remake out for a few months now, we've all had a lot of time to discuss our feelings and thoughts about part 1 of the project. The pros, the cons, everything that's confusing the fuck out of everybody, because you know, Nomura. Jokes aside though, many of us have asked though, what's next for the future of the Remake Project? When's part 2 coming out? When's it going to end off? And better yet, going off of events in the world currently, how's development going? Well, we have some answers from a Guardian interview with the game's producer, Yoshinori Kitase, and co-director, Naoki Hamaguchi. This interview told us a bit about the future of the project, even a tiny bit about Sephiroth. However, there's even some details in here about the development of Part 1. So, let's talk about it. Let's mosey. Let's start off here with some development of Part 1 info. First off, what did you hope to achieve by expanding the city of Midgar for the remake? Kitase said, "When we began working on the Remake Project, I went back to the original game and played it again, and the sections of Midgar were far shorter than I remembered from memory. I did feel that the Shinra Company executives and the Turks who will appear again in later parts of the story needed to be portrayed in greater detail, the same way as the 3 members of Avalanche. Our vision was to dive much deeper into the world and its characters than ever before. In doing this, we have expanded upon the eclectic city of Midgar, building upon the structure of the city and showing the lives of the residents in greater detail. I loved being able to show the city of Midgar and its unique structure in full 3D. The technical limitations of the original game fixed the camera to a top-down view, but in the remake, you can move through it like never before. The sense of immense weight and oppression that you get when looking up from the slums really allows you to experience the feeling that the slum dwellers get from living there firsthand. In my opinion, I feel they did a pretty good job at this. Not everything in this new Midgar was perfect, some areas did feel a bit too stretched out here and there, and I do think that the original wall market is actually better personally. However, I think the rest of it is plain amazing, and in some ways, better than the original. I love this version of Midgar, and I think they did a great job, especially in the size and scope of everything. Now if only the skyboxes were better." The interviewer asks, "Were there any new ideas for Midgar that you tried but eventually rejected?" Hamaguchi said, "Final Fantasy VII Remake contains many minigames that pay homage to the original, and there was one that I really wanted to include but ultimately I was not able to do so. Fans remember the basketball shooting minigame in the Gold Saucer, so we put a basketball hoop in the park that you find on the way to Jesse's family's home in the slums, and I wanted to make it playable there too. However, we felt that the noise of rebounding basketballs did not really work with the atmosphere at that point in the story, when the team were moving covertly in the dead of night, so we removed it. We still wanted to leave a little homage in there though, so we left an abandoned basketball. I was curious actually and went to go look for myself, and it's true, there's actually a basketball there. To be fair, I do think it would have been a little weird tonally to have Biggs talking about Jesse's dad being unconscious from Mako poisoning while Cloud's trying to hit a 3-pointer. The interviewer asks, "There has been much speculation about the significance of Cloud's visions of Sephiroth. What can you say about their relationship?" Kitase said, "In the original game, Sephiroth did not make an appearance in the section of the story told here, but we changed it to have him appear from the start, in order to position him playing an important role over the whole of the Remake Project. Sephiroth plays a major part in the ongoing story of the next game, so I am unable to reveal any more information about him here. However, seeing this kind of lively debate between fans on social media gives us huge motivation for the next installment. In Remake, I was personally pretty happy with Sephiroth overall, albeit he's definitely a major mindfuck. However, it wasn't perfect. The possible time-traveling Sephiroth from Advent Children could be a huge hurdle to jump through writing-wise for the future installments. But it's not to say it doesn't leave me intrigued. In fact, it really does. I love Sephiroth in the remake, how he really comes across as this horrifying figure for Cloud. And even though the time travel stuff is a bit concerning, I hope they can pull it off. While there were some things I wasn't a huge fan of with Sephiroth in part 1, like the time travel stuff for example, I was pretty happy with him, and some of the new stuff I think actually has a lot of potential. Genova especially was downright amazing. With part 2 having the group leaving Midgar and going out to explore the world of Gaia, Sephiroth is going to have a much larger role, and that gets me pretty pumped. Also, One Winged Angel in the remake is the best version of that song by far. Just my opinion. The interviewer then asked, "What was your approach to remaking the game's iconic cutscenes?" Hamaguchi said, "There were various hardware limitations on the original Final Fantasy VII, meaning that the way the characters express themselves had to be stylized and over-exaggerated in order to communicate their emotions. With the remake, there is naturally a voiceover for the dialogue, and we are able to portray a character's emotions in a more realistic manner, allowing us to communicate without resorting to dialogue. But portraying characters' emotions through cutscenes is already done in film, and the biggest new challenge that we took on with Final Fantasy VII Remake was to foreshadow and frame the protagonist's emotional states throughout the gameplay experience as well. For example, the depiction of the devastation in Sector 8 after the Mako Reactor 1 bombing mission was important in conveying that eternal strife that the characters were experiencing towards their actions, and all the dialogue spoken by NPCs in that section served to create the right atmosphere for later story developments. In my opinion, for the most part, I think they did a great job here with the cutscenes. I mean, the visuals are obviously amazing, but from a writing and especially an environment perspective, I'd say it's downright awesome. The Sector 8 bit after you bomb Mako Reactor 1 was amazing to walk through for the first time. Seeing all of the people distraught and unsure about what to do as you walk through it was great, and the Sector 7 plate falling, god, this was an amazing moment. But outside of things like that, the characters are really what makes these cutscenes shine. Barrett definitely being a highlight for me. It really was great, and I personally feel like they did an amazing job with the cutscenes, and simply just the world around you. The final question, and easily one of the most talked about things when people talk about Part 2, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected the game's release and ongoing development? Kitase said, "I am pained and saddened to see so many lives around the world suffering with the virus and even losing their lives. When we set the release date for the game, nobody could have predicted a global pandemic like this, and the release of the game happening during this unprecedented situation has blindsided us. At this current time, the team are still making the next game via remote working. Our performance will temporarily drop below 100% efficiency because of this, but I do not think there should be a big impact in the long term. I sincerely hope that Final Fantasy VII Remake can provide those who are forced to endure the stress of living under lockdown a moment of relief and enjoyment in these trying times." While it is a bit disappointing that the team isn't going to be able to give it their 100%, I think it's completely understandable given the situation. The world's in a weird place right now with the pandemic, and things like development for games and releases are being affected heavily. While maybe we'll have to wait a tiny bit longer for Part 2 depending on how long this goes on for, it's completely understandable. I have no doubt that even with everyone in a weird time, they'll be able to produce a solid product. But that's where we are right now. With that said, what are your thoughts from all this? What do you hope for from Sephiroth in the future installments, and is there anything you want from the future of the Remake Project? Let me know down below. Thank you all very much for watching, have a great night, stay safe, and peace out, soldiers.